I'd like to call the meeting to order. And welcome you all. Your Excellency President Lula Da Silva, President of the Republic of Brazil, Your Excellency President Vladimir Putin, Your Excellency Prime Minister Narendra, Your Excellency President Xi Jinping, Your Excellency Deputy President Paul Mashatile, Deputy President of the Republic of South Africa, Your Excellency Dilma Rousseff, President of the New Development Bank, Chair of the BRICS Business Council, Ms. Busi Mabuza, Chair of the BRICS Women's Business Alliance, Ms. Lebogang Zulu, Honorable Ministers, and all guests here present, members of the diplomatic corps who are here with us. I'd like to welcome you all to South Africa and to the 15th BRICS Summit. This is the open session of our summit, so it's a pleasure and a joy to have all of you here. The BRICS partnership straddles 4 continents and 5 countries that are home to almost 3.5 billion people who live on this planet. Over the past decades, the bloc has been a major driver of global growth, of global trade and investment as well. BRICS stands for solidarity and for progress. BRICS, inclusivity, and for a more equitable order. BRICS also stands for sustainable development. We are an inclusive formation of developing and emerging economies that are seeking to work together to benefit from our rich histories, our rich cultures, and systems to advance the prosperity of the peoples of our countries. We do so because we know that poverty, inequality, and underdevelopment are the biggest challenges facing humanity. We are therefore determined that the BRICS partnership, which has been growing in importance and influence over the years, must be harnessed to drive an inclusive global economic recovery. Advancing the African agenda for us is a strategic priority as South Africa during its chairship of BRICS. It is for this reason that we have chosen as the theme for this year's summit, BRICS and Africa, a partnership for mutually accelerated growth, sustainability, and inclusive multilateralism. We welcome the ongoing engagement of BRICS countries with Africa in the spirit of partnership and mutual respect. We are pleased that all BRICS members, Brazil is re-engaging with the African continent in a meaningful way. Russia has always had really good and meaningful relations with African countries. China has chosen to assist and support Africa with its aspirations for development. And all of us, in the ways that we are involved and engaged, we want to be engaged with Africa. India continues to increase its engagement and its trade with Africa. So as the BRICS family, all of us as members, we are deeply invested and deeply engaged with Africa. Our objectives are reciprocal trade and investment. We want the goods and products and services from Africa to compete on an equal footing on the global economy. The African Continental Free Trade Area, once fully operational, will unlock the benefits of the continental market and generate mutually beneficial opportunities for both African and BRICS countries. As nations of the world confront the effects of climate change, we must ensure that the transition to a low-carbon, climate-resilient future is just, it must be fair, and it must be able to take into account the different circumstances that prevail in all countries. In line with this objective, BRICS nations need to advance the interests of the global South and call for industrialized countries to honor their commitments to support climate actions by developing economic progress. The commitments of support that have been made that have not yet been lived up to need to be followed through. Peace and stability are preconditions for a better, more equitable world. We're deeply concerned about conflicts across the world that continue to cause a great deal of suffering and hardship to many people around the world. As South Africa, our position remains that diplomacy, dialogue, negotiation, and adherence to the principles of the United Nations Charter are necessary for the peaceful and just resolution of conflicts. We are concerned that the global financial and payment systems are increasingly being used as instruments of geopolitical contestation. Global economic recovery relies on predictable global payment systems and the smooth operating of banking, supply chains, trade, tourism, as well as financial flows. We will continue discussions on practical measures to facilitate trade and investment flows through the increased use of local currencies. This is a matter we believe that further discussions need to take place, particularly amongst our finance ministers. The world is changing. New economic, political, social, and technological realities for greater cooperation between nations is essential. New realities call for a fundamental reform of the institutions of global governance so that they may be more representative and better able to respond to the challenges that confront humanity. While many believe that we should advance the interests of all people, we believe that yes, as we advance them, the interests of the global South, that we as BRICS want to be ready to advance are essential. And in this regard, we want to collaborate more, to cooperate more with all countries that aspire to create a more inclusive international order. We are confident that this 15th BRICS Summit will advance the cause of common prosperity and progress. We are confident that this 15th BRICS Summit will in the end enrich and inspire our work towards the achievement of a much more humane global community. This is what BRICS is all about. This is what BRICS is committed to achieving. It is a great honor for us as South Africa to have this opportunity to host this 15th BRICS Summit and to have in our presence the BRICS members as they are represented here. With those words, I open this session and then call upon one of the young leaders of our country who is also going to have an opportunity to give the words of welcome, but also to give the hope that young people in the BRICS countries hope to communicate to all of us. I call upon Ms. Asanda Luata to speak to us. She is the chairperson of the Board of Directors of the National Youth Development Agency that seeks to advance the interests of young people in South Africa. Ms. Ayanda.
Thank you very much, Honorable President. Your Excellencies and the heads of states of the BRICS countries, ministers and deputy ministers present, members of the media, leaders of business, civil society and labor, young people. It gives me great pleasure to deliver a statement on behalf of young people to the BRICS Heads of State Summit. Young people make up a large proportion of the populations of each of our respective countries. Their voices and views are critical as we forge a post-pandemic society at the highest decision-making forums. I must recognize the efforts of the organizers in ensuring that young people are represented at this particular summit. Your Excellencies, from the 18th till the 20th of July, young people from BRICS countries converged in Durban, KwaZulu-Natal for the 9th BRICS Youth Summit and the first in person since the pandemic. The summit was convened under the theme BRICS and Africa, Partnership for Mutually Accelerated Growth, Sustainable Development, and Inclusive Multilateralism to discuss the current state and future prospects for the development of youth cooperation in BRICS countries over a wide range of areas. As we have entered into the decade of action of the Sustainable Development Goals, we believe that BRICS countries in general, and young people in particular, should use their collective strengths to prioritize the development paradigm, using it as a guiding principle for our work as we continue intra-BRICS cooperation across areas such as trade, education, skills development and training, economic participation and transformation, health and well-being, and social cohesion. Your Excellencies, young people in their collective believe that youth are the present and the future, and our interactions as BRICS member states cannot and should not be limited to an annual summit, which is why at our 9th Youth Summit, we presented the draft framework for the establishment of a BRICS Youth Council, which will become the coordinating body for youth development between BRICS member countries and will join formations such as the BRICS Business Council, BRICS Women's Alliance, and the New Development Bank. More importantly, the Youth Council will be a historic achievement for young people across our BRICS member states. Since the summit, leaders of youth agencies have met on 3 occasions to consider the draft declaration and framework of the BRICS Youth Council, and we are pleased to inform this summit that we have reached consensus on the establishment of a Youth Council. This will allow us to ensure deeper and stronger collaboration amongst young people. We thus implore that this summit endorse our proposal for the establishment of the BRICS Youth Council in its final declaration in ensuring that new pathways for positive change and innovation can be realized, and in doing so, will further ensure that no young person amongst the BRICS member states gets left behind. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Ayanda Luata, for bringing the youth voice in the BRICS summit. Your proposals indeed are very clear and comprehensive, and we will be responding to that. It now gives me pleasure to ask His Excellency President Luiz Lula Da Silva, President of the Federative Republic of Brazil, to take the floor.
Meu caro
My dear
presidente da República da África
President
do
of the
Sul,
Republic of South
Ramaphosa,
Africa, President Ramaphosa,
meu caro
my dear
presidente Vladimir Putin,
President Vladimir Putin,
presidente da Federação
President
Russa,
of the Russian
aqui
Federation,
representado
here
pelo ministro
represented
Lavrov,
by Foreign Affairs Minister Lavrov,
meu caro Narendra Modi, primeiro-ministro da
my
República
dear
da Índia,
Prime Minister Modi of India,
meu caro Xi Jinping,
my dear Xi
presidente da
Jinping,
República Popular da
President
China,
of the People's Republic of China,
minha querida
and my dear
companheira
sister
Dilma Rousseff,
Dilma Rousseff,
presidenta do
the
novo Banco de
CEO of the New
Desenvolvimento,
Development Bank,
ministro de Estado do Brasil que
state
me
ministers of
acompanham,
Brazil that are in my
Mauro
delegation,
Vieira,
Mauro
Relações
Vieira of Foreign
Internacionais,
Affairs,
Fernando Haddad,
Fernando
Fazenda,
Haddad, Finance
Daniele
Minister of
Franco,
Brazil,
Desigualdade
Daniele Franco
Racial,
for Racial Equality,
Embaixador Celso Amorim,
Ambassador
assessor
Celso Amorim,
especial,
Special International Advisor of the
minha
President,
querida esposa
and my
Janja,
dear wife, Janja,
senhoras e senhores
ladies
membros do
and
Conselho
gentlemen,
Empresarial
members
dos
of
BRICS,
the Business Forum of the
senhoras e
BRICS,
senhores membros
ladies
da
and
Aliança
gentlemen,
Empresarial
members
e
of the
Mulheres dos BRICS,
Women's
Levogan Zulu,
Entrepreneur
representante da Aliança
Alliance,
Empresarial de Mulheres dos BRICS,
and Madam
e a Zanda
Luiz
Lubaca,
Zulu,
diretora da
representative
Agência
of the
Nacional de Desenvolvimento da
Business
Juventude.
Alliance of Women of BRICS,
Amigas,
and the youth
amigos.
member, Sandra Luaka. Dear friends,
é uma alegria
it's
retornar
with
a
great joy to
Joanesburgo,
come back to Johannesburg,
cidade que foi contra o
very
apartheid
important stage of
e que
struggle against
segue como
apartheid,
inspiração
and that
para
continues
o
to
combate
inspire
a
us to
todas as
fight
formas de
all forms of
discriminação.
discrimination and inequality.
Na última vez
The last
que
time
participei
that I
desta
participated in the
2010,
summit meeting
tive a honra
2010,
de
I had
recepcionar
the
em
honor to
Brasília
host
os
in
chefes de
Brasilia, our
Estado e
capital,
governo da
the heads of
Rússia,
state and
Índia e
government of
China,
Russia, India, and
além
China,
da África do Sul,
besides
que
South
participou
Africa, that
como
participated
convidado.
as a candidate
Apenas
to become
ano
member of the
depois,
BRICS. Only 1 year after
confirmamos
that
o
meeting, we
ingresso da África do
confirmed
Sul
that
na primeira
South Africa would
expansão
join
do nosso
the BRICS in the
agrupamento.
first expansion of our grouping.
Sua inclusão
Its
fez com que
inclusion
passássemos a
made that
refletir
we could
melhor
better
a nova
reflect the
configuração
new
do poder
configuration
mundial.
of the world power.
Saímos fortalecidos.
We left that meeting
Hoje,
strengthened.
representamos
Today, we
41%
represent
da população
41% of the world
e somos
population,
responsáveis por
and we are
31%
responsible
do
for
PIB global
31% of
em
the
paridade
global
de poder.
GDP in terms of
Mas
purchasing
enfrentamos
power
cenário mais
parity.
complexo
But we
do
face
que
a
quando
more
nos
complex
reunimos pela
scenario
primeira
than
vez.
when we met for the very
Em
first time.
poucos anos,
In few years,
retrocedemos de uma
we
conjuntura de
went back
multipolaridade benigna
from a
para
benign
uma que retoma a mentalidade
multipolarity
obsoleta
juncture
Guerra Fria
to going
da
back to an
competição
absolute
geopolítica.
mindset of Cold War
Essa
and
é uma
geopolitical
insensatez
competition.
que gera grandes
This
incertezas
is
e
lack
corrói o
of the
multilateralismo.
senses that generates great
Sabemos
uncertainty and corrodes
onde esse caminho pode nos
multilateralism.
levar.
We know very where this
mundo
path could take us.
precisa
The world
compreender
needs to
Os
understand
riscos
the
envolvidos
risks
são
that are
inaceitáveis.
involved and which are
para a
unacceptable
humanidade.
for humanity.
Os BRICS,
The BRICS,
todos sofrem as
we should say that
consequências da
all
guerra.
suffer the
As
consequences of the
populações
war.
mais vulneráveis
The most vulnerable population
em
in
desenvolvimento
the developing
são
countries
atingidas
are the ones
proporcionalmente.
that are hit
A guerra
more.
da Ucrânia
in an
evidencia as
unproportional way.
limitações do
The
Conselho de Segurança.
Ukraine war
Muitos
shows the
outros
limitations of the UN
e
Security
crises estão
Council.
por vir.
Many other conflicts
Os
and
BRICS
crises do not
se
have
consolidou
the same
como
attention.
para a
And the
discussão
BRICS
dos
is a
principais
forum
temas que afetam
to
a paz
discuss the
e a
main issues that
segurança
affect peace and
Não
world
podemos
security.
furtar
We cannot
a tratar
bypass to treat
o principal conflito da
the main
atualidade que
conflict of
ocorre na
today that
Ucrânia
is happening
e
in
tem efeitos
Ukraine
globais.
that has
O
global
Brasil
effects.
tem
Brazil
uma posição histórica
has
de
an
defesa
historical
da
position in
soberania,
the
da
defense of the
integridade
sovereignty and
territorial
integrity of the
e de todos
territory
os
and of
propósitos e
all
princípios das
the
Nações Unidas.
principles that are followed by the UN.
Achamos positivo
We believe that it
que
is
número
positive
crescente de
that a
países,
growing number
entre
of
eles os
countries,
países
amongst
dos
them the BRICS
também
countries, also
estejam engajados
are
em contato
engaged
direto com
in
Moscou
direct
ou com
contact
Kiev.
with Moscow and with
Não
Kiev.
subestimamos as
We do not
dificuldades para alcançar
underestimate
a
the
paz.
difficulties to reach peace.
Tampouco
And
podemos
either
ficar
we
indiferentes
can
às
be
mortes e à
indifferent to the
destruição que
deaths and the
aumentam a cada
destruction
dia.
that increase every
O
day.
Brasil não
Brazil
contempla fórmulas
does not
unilaterais para a
contemplate
paz.
unilateral formulas
Estamos
for
prontos
peace. We are
para nos
ready
juntar a esforço
to
que possa
join
efetivamente
efforts that we can
contribuir para
effectively
pronto
contribute for
cessar-fogo e uma paz
immediate
justa.
ceasefire and a fair and
Todos
everlasting
sofrem com
peace.
a consequência da
Everybody
guerra.
suffers with the
As
consequences of the
populações mais
war.
vulneráveis nos
The
países
most
em
vulnerable
desenvolvimento
population
são
in the developing
atingidas
countries are the ones
desproporcionalmente.
that are reached in
guerra
an
na
unproportional way. The Ukraine war
evidencia
shows
as limitações
the
do Conselho de
limitations of the
Segurança.
UN Security Council.
Muitos outros
Many
conflitos
other
e crises
conflicts and crises
não recebem a
do not
atenção
receive
devida,
the due
mesmo
attention,
usando vasto
even using,
sofrimento,
even
mesmo
causing
causando vasto
a
sofrimento
vast
para as suas
suffering
populações.
for their peoples.
Haitianos,
Haitians,
Yemenitas,
Yemenites, Syrians,
líbios,
Libyans,
sudaneses
and
e
Sudanese,
palestinos,
and
todos
Palestinians
merecem viver em
all
paz.
deserve to live
É
in peace.
inaceitável que
It
os
is
gastos militares
unacceptable
globais
that global
em
military
único ano
spending
ultrapassam 2
in 1
trilhões
year
de
goes
dólares,
beyond $2
enquanto
trillion,
a FAO,
while the
no nível
FAO
735
says to
milhões
us
de
that
pessoas
735 million
todo
people
dia.
are in hunger every
A
day in the
busca
world.
pela paz é
The
dever
quest for
coletivo
peace
e
is a collective
imperativo
obligation
para
and
o
an
desenvolvimento
imperative for a
justo e
fair
sustentável.
development and sustainable
Os BRICS
development. The
Deve
BRICS
atuar como uma
should
força
act
pelo entendimento
as a force for
e pela
understanding
cooperação.
and for cooperation.
Nossa
Our
disposição
willingness
está expressa
is
na
expressed
contribuição
in the contributions given
da
by
África do
China,
Sul
South
e do
Africa,
meu próprio
and from my
país
own
para os
country
esforços de
in
solução
all
do
the
conflito
endeavors
da
to
Ucrânia.
conflict resolution in
lugares,
Ukraine. There are many
enquanto os
places
homens
while
fazem a guerra,
men go to
são as
war,
mulheres que
the
lutam
women
pela
are the ones that
conciliação.
fight for
A
conciliation.
valorização e o
The
fortalecimento
valuation
do
and the
papel das
strengthening of the
mulheres na
role of
resolução
women
dos
in
conflitos
the resolution
será
of
cada vez mais
conflicts
central
will be
para
more
o
and
mundo
more
em paz.
central for peace in the world.
Mais do que isso,
And more than
o
that,
empoderamento
the
das
women's
mulheres é
empowerment is a
pré-condição para o
precondition
pleno
for
desenvolvimento
a
econômico
full
e social.
socioeconomic development.
Parafraseando
And
Thomas
paraphrasing
Sankara,
Thomas
grande
Sankara,
líder
a great
pan-africano,
Pan-African leader,
não
which
podemos
says
almejar
we
uma
cannot
sociedade
hope for a
em que a
society
metade da
where half of
população
the
é
population
silenciada pelo
is
machismo
silenced by
e pela
male chauvinism
discriminação
and
na
by
participação
discrimination in
política
political
e no mundo do
participation
trabalho.
and in the world of labor.
Amigos,
Dear friends,
o esfacelamento da governança
the
global
weakening of the
também
global
está
governance
patente nas
is
agendas
also
do
clear
desenvolvimento,
in the
do
development
financiamento
agendas, in
e do
financing,
enfrentamento
and in
à
the
mudança.
confrontation with climate change.
Ao retornar à
When I
presidência do
came
Brasil,
back to the
me
presidency in
entristece
Brazil, I
constatar
was very sad to see that the implementation of the 2030 agenda is under risk in all the world.
relatório
A
recente da
recent
ONU
report
indica
from the
forte
UN
retrocesso.
indicates that we're in a strong
Vemos o maior
backwardness.
aumento da
We see the
desigualdade entre os
greatest
países
increase
em
of
3
inequality between the countries in
30%
more
das metas
than the
estagnamos
last 3 decades.
ou andamos
In
para trás.
30% of the goals, we
É muito
stagnated or
difícil
we're
combater
going
a mudança
backwards.
do clima,
It's very difficult to fight
enquanto
climate
tantos
change
países em
while many
desenvolvimento ainda lidam com a
developing
fome,
countries still
a
have to deal
pobreza
with
e
hunger,
outros tipos de
poverty,
violência.
and other kinds of
O
violence.
princípio das
The principle
responsabilidades
of
comuns,
common
porém
and
diferenciadas,
shared
mantém
responsibility,
sua
but differentiated, is something that
Os grandes
is true
responsáveis
till today.
pelas
The major
emissões de
response
carbono
for the
que
carbon
causaram
emissions
a
that
crise
cause
climática foram
the
aqueles
climate
que
change
fizeram a
were those
revolução
countries
industrial
that made
e
their
alimentaram
industrial
o
revolution and
extrativismo
feeded
colonial predatório.
predatory colonial
Eles têm uma dívida
extractivism.
histórica com
They
o
have an
planeta Terra e
historical
com a
debt with
humanidade.
the planet Earth and with
Precisamos
humanity.
valorizar o
We need
Acordo
to
de
value the Paris
Paris e a
Agreement
Convenção do Clima,
and the Climate
em vez de
Convention
terceirizar
instead
as
of outsourcing
responsabilidades
climate
climáticas
responsibilities
para o
for
global.
the global
O
south.
Brasil está
Brazil
recuperando
is
seu
recovering
protagonismo
its
na agenda
protagonism
ambiental.
on the
A
environmental agenda. The
a
coordination
coordenação com os demais
with
países
other
em
countries,
desenvolvimento,
with other developing
como
countries
florestas tropicais
that
para
carry
atuação nas
tropical
COPs do
forests
clima e da
to act
biodiversidade
at the
será
climate
vital para
change
dar
copes
peso aos
and
nossos
biodiversity copes will be vital to give
da
way to our
Amazônia,
interests. In the
realizada
summit
dias
meeting in
8
the
e 9 de
Amazon
agosto,
rainforest
é
that was
marco
held
para a
some days
necessária
ago, is a landmark for the necessary construction of a sustainable development model with more fairness.
Nossos recursos
Our resources
não devem ser
should
explorados
not
em
be
benefício de
exploited for
poucos,
the benefit of
mas
few,
valorizados e
but
colocados
valued
a
and
serviço
placed
de
to
todos,
service all,
sobretudo do
and
bem-estar
above
da
all,
população
for the
locais.
well-being of the local populations.
Para que as
And more than
promessas já
that, so
feitas
that the
pelos
promises that
países
were already done by
sejam
the rich
cumpridas,
countries should be
o
fulfilled.
financiamento climático
Climate
e
financing
biodiversidade
and
deve ser
biodiversity should
verdadeiramente
be
novo e
truly new
adicional
and
em
additional
relação ao
in
financiamento
relationship
ao
to
desenvolvimento.
the traditional financing to
Precisamos de
development.
sistema
We
financeiro
need
internacional
an international
que, ao invés de
financial
alimentar
system
a
that instead of
desigualdade,
feeding the
ajuda os países de
inequalities
baixa e
should
média
help
renda a implementar
the
as mudanças
medium and
estruturais.
low income countries to
Isso só
implement structural
ocorrerá
changes. This will
com
only happen
representatividade adequada
with an adequate
das instituições de
representation
Bretton Woods
of the Bretton Woods institutions and their climatic
O endividamento externo
funds.
restringe o
Foreign
desenvolvimento
indebtedness refrains sustainable development. It's
que os países
inadmissible.
em desenvolvimento
It's
sejam
inadmissible
penalizados
that the
com
developing
juros
countries should be
até
penalized with
8
interest
vezes
rates
mais
that are
altos
8
do que o
times
que
higher
cobrado
than
nos
the
países.
ones that are charged in the rich
É
countries.
preciso aumentar
It
a
is necessary to
liquidez,
increase liquidity,
ampliar o
to
financiamento
enhance concessional
concessional e, por fim,
financing,
as
and
condicionalidades.
last but
O
not the least,
sistema
the
multilateral de
conditionalities.
comércio
The trade
deve ser
multilateral
reavivado
system should be
para voltar a atuar
reactivated
como
so it can come
ferramenta
back
para um
and
comércio
act as a tool for fair
previsível,
trade,
equitativo e não
predictable,
discriminatório.
equitable, and
Ninguém mais
non-discriminatory. No
se
one
recorda da
anymore
rodada de
remembers
Doha
the
do
development round of the WTO.
A descarbonização
The
de
decarbonization
nossas
of our
economias
economies
deve vir
should be
acompanhada pela
followed
geração de
by
empregos
the
dignos, de industrialização
job
e
creation with
infraestruturas verdes
dignity,
e serviços
industrialization,
públicos.
and green infrastructure and public
Por meio
services for all.
do novo Banco
Through
de
the new
Desenvolvimento,
development bank,
podemos oferecer
we can offer
alternativas próprias de
our own
financiamento
alternatives for
adequadas às
adequate
necessidades
financing
global.
that will attend or
Tenho
meet the needs
certeza
of the
de que
global
sob a
South.
liderança da
I'm
minha
sure that under
companheira
the
Dilma
leadership
Rousseff,
of my sister
o
Dilma
banco
Rousseff,
estará à altura
the
desse
bank
desafio.
will manage to
criação de uma
face these
moeda
challenges. The
para as
creation
transações
of a common
comerciais
valid unit
e de
for our
investimento
trade
entre os membros
transactions
dos BRICS
and investments for the
aumenta
BRICS
nossas
countries will
opções de
increase
pagamento
our
e reduzem
payment
nossas
options and
vulnerabilidades.
reduce our
Senhores
vulnerabilities.
presidentes e convidados,
Presidents,
hoje os BRICS estão
today, and
plenamente
guests, today
consolidados
the
como
BRICS are
marca e
fully
ativo
consolidated
político de valor
as a brand and
estratégico.
as a
A
political
participação de
asset of
dezenas de
strategic
chefes de Estado
value.
e de governo
The participation
na
of
sessão
dozens
ampliada de
of
amanhã
heads of government and
representará
state
feito
tomorrow in the
histórico.
enhanced
Os
session
interesses de
will
vários
represent an
países em
historical
aderir ao agrupamento
landmark. The
é
interest of many
reconhecido
countries to
esse
join the
reconhecimento de
BRICS
sua
is the
relevância
recognition
histórica.
of its growing relevance.
Também
particularly in relation to the composition of the BRICS family. You relate to us how, for instance, South Africa attended as a candidate member and thereafter was added to BRICS as a member, and that in itself strengthened the BRICS family. We once again stand at another momentous moment when more than 20 other countries as BRICS leaders, you are discussing this matter and giving close attention to it, and you will need to make your decisions known. Your commitment to contribute to achieving a peaceful world something that is appreciated, and your other views that you expressed are also most appreciated. The empowerment of women is something that has a great deal of resonance with most of us here, as are your views on climate change and how the resources of various countries should be used for the benefit of all. So thank you very much for your remarks in that regard. It is now my pleasure to ask President Vladimir Putin to have his moment to speak. He'll be participating through the virtual platform.
Thanks a lot. President Ramaphosa, distinguished President, distinguished Prime Minister Modi, President Xi, dear colleagues, at the outset, I would like to thank South African friends for what they have done during their presidency, during their chairmanship this year. The colleagues before me have already given positive assessments of the BRICS activities. And in general, certainly we share these assessments. Our group of 5 countries has rightly proved to be a credible entity on the global arena with ever-growing influence in global affairs. The strategic course of BRICS is aimed at the future, and it meets the aspirations of the main part of the international community, the so-called global majority. By acting in concert on the principles of equality, partnership, support, and account for each other's interests, we deal with the most pressing issues of global and regional agenda. The main important thing is that BRICS stands for a multipolar world order that is equitable and built on international law and the principles of the United Nations Charter, including respect for the right of every people to its own development path. Some countries promote their hegemony, exceptionality, and their policy of the ongoing colonialism and neocolonialism. I would like to note that the aspiration to preserve their hegemony in the world led to a dire crisis in Ukraine. At first, with the help of Western countries, an anti-constitutional coup d'etat was carried out in this country. After that, those people who did not agree with this coup faced a war. A war was unleashed against them, a war of attrition, and it lasted for 8 years. Russia decided to support people that fight for their culture, for their traditions, for their language and their future. Our actions in Ukraine are guided by only one thing, to put an end to the war that was unleashed by the West against people in Donbass. We thank our colleagues within BRICS that take an active part in the attempts to put an end to this situation and to ensure just settlement by peaceful means. Dear colleagues, the main thing is that we unanimously stand for the shaping of the multipolar world order, which is genuinely equitable and which is building on international law. The BRICS countries are building up their potential. As was said, the BRICS countries are home to over 3 billion persons, and their share in global GDP as per purchasing power parity of the so-called G7. Over the past decades, BRICS investment to global economy have doubled, and the cumulative export reached 20% of the overall indicator. We are successfully implementing the strategy for BRICS Economic Partnership 2025. Namely, we are strengthening the bilateral cooperation on such areas as diversification of supply chains, de-dollarization, and transfer to local currencies in our mutual settlements, digital economy, support for small and medium enterprises, just transfer of technologies, and naturally, the active part in these processes is played by business community. A great deal of effort is invested within the BRICS Business Council and the BRICS Women's Business Alliance. That the host of our meeting, President Ramaphosa, indicated the leaders of these organizations are present at this meeting. An important priority for the BRICS interaction is the establishment of new sustainable, safe transport routes. In my address to the BRICS Business Forum, I talked about the importance of a speedy development of transcontinental routes, such as the North-South corridor that would link Russian Northern Sea and Baltic ports to sea terminals in the Gulf and in the Indian Ocean. In the future, it would ensure the annual transit of up to 30 million tons of cargo. We believe that it is high time to establish a BRICS Permanent Commission on Transport that would deal not only with the North-South project, but in broader terms, it would deal with logistics and transport corridors development, both interregional and global ones. Should the partners agree to that, the Russian side could work on this idea within its chairmanship in 2024. And certainly, we welcome strengthened interaction within BRICS in terms of global innovations. We look forward to a more active cooperation within the BRICS Global Research Advanced Infrastructure Network. It could be supported and developed by the Special Trust Fund. For its part, Russia is ready to share its experience and best practices, including when it comes to digital transformation and the use of artificial intelligence. We also seek to actively participate in the implementation of the achieved arrangements on the establishment of the Joint Working Group on Nuclear Medicine. We seek to swiftly switch into practice the work of the BRICS TBET Cooperation Alliance. We wholeheartedly support the proposal of South African colleagues to organize a separate ministerial on women affairs. Their role in political, economic, and social life of our states should definitely be enhanced. Dear colleagues, next year, Russia will assume BRICS chairmanship. Our chairmanship will have the following motto: strengthening multilateralism for just global development and security. We plan to have some 200 political, economic, and public events that will be hosted by over a dozen Russian cities. At the same time, the BRICS summit is scheduled for October 2024. It will take place in the city of Kazan. The specific dates will be agreed upon with colleagues via diplomatic channels. We'll also have events in the format that has proved its relevance. I'm talking about BRICS Plus and BRICS Outreach. During our chairmanship, we would like to do our utmost to efficiently facilitate the implementation of decisions adopted at this summit, including with regard to the expansion of BRICS. We will coordinate closely with partners on foreign policy matters. We will jointly work on key international platforms, primarily within the United Nations. We'll continue regular meetings of BRICS national security advisors. Certainly, we will prioritize such urgent tasks as combating terrorism and the spread of terrorist ideology, as well as combating money laundering and return of assets gained by criminal means. By the way, we thank partners for their support within the Financial Action Task Force.
Рассчитываем, что
We
такой
hope that
солидарный настроек
we will
сохранится
keep
и в
the
будущем.
such spirit of
Будем
solidarity in the
способствовать
future.
дальнейшей комплексной
We will
реализации
contribute to
стратегии
comprehensive
экономического партнерства
implementation of
БРИКС
the
до
strategy for BRICS
2025
Economic
года и
Partnership
выработке
2025
новых
and the
долгосрочных
development
ориентиров
of new
сотрудничества.
long-term guidelines
В
for
их числе
cooperation.
видится повышение роли наших
This
государств
includes,
в
in our
международной
view,
валютно-финансовой
increasing the
системе,
role of states in
развитие
international monetary and
межбанковской
financial
кооперации,
system, the development of
расширение
interbank
использования
cooperation,
национальных валют и
expanding the
углубление
use of local
взаимодействия по
currencies
линии
and deepening
структурных
interaction
таможенных антимонопольных
between
органов.
tax, customs, and anti-monopoly
В
agencies.
числе российских
Naturally,
приоритетов наращивание
Russian priorities
партнерства в сфере
include
науки и
bolstered
инноваций,
partnership in science and
здравоохранения,
innovation,
образования,
healthcare,
развитие
education,
гуманитарной
the
сферы в целом.
development of humanitarian ties in general,
И
cultural
цивилизационное
and
многообразие
civilizational
является одной из
diversity
присущих опор
is
нового
one of the
многополярного
pillars
миропорядка.
of the new multiple world
Подразумевает
order,
создание
and it
целостного,
means
свободного
the establishment
пространства
of
культурного обмена.
integral free
искусства,
space for cultural
творчества.
exchange, art,
Как
and
представляется,
creativity.
назрел
As we
совместно
see
с
it,
партнерами
it's
по
high time
БРИКС,
for
кстати, и по
partners
партнерами,
within
что для нас
BRICS,
важно, и с партнерами по
as well as
СНГ,
the
другими
SCO and
странами,
the Community
серьезный
of
разговор о
Independent
будущем
States
культуры в мире, о
and
сбережении
other
и
countries to
продолжении
have a
мирового
serious conversation
культурного
on the
наследия.
future of
Кстати,
culture in the
площадкой
world,
для
on
такого диалога
preserving and
могут стать
multiplying
9-й
global cultural
международный культурный
heritage.
форум,
By the way,
который уже
such dialogue
запланировано
could be held
провести
within
в
the
городе
9th
Санкт-Петербурге
International Cultural Forum,
в России с
which is
16 по
scheduled to take
18
place in
ноября
the city
этого
of
года.
St. Petersburg from
И,
November
разумеется, Россия
16th to 18th.
продолжит всемирно
And certainly,
содействовать
Russia will
дальнейшему
continue
развитию
to
контактов в
contribute
области
to
спорта
contacts
и молодежных
in
обменов.
sports and youth
В
exchanges.
частности, в июне
Namely, in
2024
June
года на
2024,
мини игры
we
БРИКС
plan to
будем рады
have the
приветствовать
BRICS
команды
Games.
из стран
We would be happy
объединения
to welcome
и на
teams
проводимом
from
в
the BRICS
следующем году в
nations
Казани международном
at
турнире
the
игры
next year's
будущего.
international
Эти соревнования
competition, the
представляют
Games
собой
of the Future.
уникальную
They will take
комбинацию
place in the
динамичных
city of
спортивных
Kazan.
дисциплин
This is a
с
mix
самыми
of
популярными видеоиграми и
dynamic sports
технологическими устройствами.
and popular video
Хорошая
games and
возможность для
technological
контактов
devices.
и
A good
дружеского
opportunity
общения
for contacts
представится в
and
марте
friendly
2024
talks
года в
will be
Сочи
given
на Всемирном
by
фестивале
the
молодежи.
World Youth Festival that will take place in
Исключительно
March
хотел бы
next year
еще
in the
раз
city of
подчеркнуть,
Sochi.
что Россия
In
в ходе своего
conclusion, let me
председательства
once again
будет
highlight that
самым
Russia during its
конструктивным
chairmanship
образом взаимодействовать с партнерами по
interact in the
пятерке
most
в целях
constructive way
дальнейшего
with BRICS
укрепления
partners
роли
in order
и
to further
авторитета
enhance
БРИКС,
the role
который,
and credibility
безусловно,
of BRICS.
будет только
Without
расти.
any doubt,
Благодарю
this
вас. Сергей.
credibility will only grow. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you, President Putin, for your input in this regard. You're absolutely right that BRICS has proven itself to be a credible entity that acts in solidarity, that seeks to promote a more equitable global system. And we thank you also for the recognition of the efforts that are being made by a number of BRICS countries to bring about a peaceful end to the conflict between Ukraine and Russia. We agree that in the end, this type of conflict is best brought about to an end by negotiation, which you have said you have always been ready for. The BRICS members will continue to be supportive of various efforts to bring this conflict to an end through dialogue, mediation, and negotiation. And thank you for your thoughts also about the support that needs to be given to small, medium enterprises. That is appreciated. And the women empowerment process that needs to be enhanced. That's too, we truly appreciate. And you've made comments about the reform of international financial systems. That too is a matter that the BRICS needs to be seized with. And the BRICS leaders in retreat yesterday did talk about this. And the announcement in this regard will be finalized. And the cultural advancement culminating in the BRICS Games is something that also has a great deal of resonance amongst the BRICS leaders. So thank you very much indeed. It now gives me pleasure to ask the Honorable Prime Minister Narendra Modi, Prime Minister of the Republic of India, to take the podium. Prime Minister.
Excellency,
Excellency,
Rashtrapati Ramaphosa,
President Ramaphosa,
Excellency,
Excellency,
Rashtrapati Lula Da Silva,
President Lula Da Silva,
Excellency, Rashtrapati Putin,
Excellency, President Putin,
Excellency, Rashtrapati Xi,
Excellency, President Xi,
ladies and gentlemen,
ladies and gentlemen,
15वें ब्रिक्स समिट के भव्य आयोजन
my
और हमारे आतिथ्य सत्कार के लिए
congratulations and thanks
मैं प्रिय
once
मित्र
again
राष्ट्रपति रामाफोसा
to
को
my dear
एक
friend,
बार फिर से
President Ramaphosa,
बहुत-बहुत
for
बधाई देता
the
हूं।
wonderful arrangements made for the organization
जोहानिसबर्ग
of the
जैसे खूबसूरत
15th
शहर में
BRICS Summit and
एक
for
बार
his
फिर आना
hospitality. It is a
मेरे
great
और मेरे
pleasure
डेलीगेशन के लिए
for me.
अत्यंत
É
खुशी का
grande
विषय है।
prazer para mim
इस शहर का भारत के लोगों और भारत के इतिहास से पुराना गहरा संबंध है। यहाँ से कुछ दूर ही टॉल्स्टॉय फार्म है, जिसका निर्माण महात्मा गांधी ने
A short
110 वर्ष
distance
पहले
away from
किया।
here is Tolstoy Farm that
भारत,
Mahatma Gandhi
यूरेशिया
built
और अफ्रीका
110
के
years
महान
ago
विचारों को जोड़कर
by bringing together the great
महात्मा गांधी ने
philosophies of Eurasia
हमारी
and
एकता और
Africa.
आपसी
Mahatma
सौहार्द की
Gandhi laid a strong
मजबूत
foundation
नींव रखी थी।
for our unity and mutual
Excellencies,
harmony. Excellencies,
पिछले लगभग 2
the
दशकों
last 2 decades
ब्रिक्स ने
have been
एक बहुत ही
a
लंबी
long and
और शानदार
magnificent
यात्रा
journey for BRICS.
तय की है। इस यात्रा में
We
हमने
have had
अनेक
many
उपलब्धियां हासिल की।
achievements during this journey.
हमारा न्यू
Our
डेवलपमेंट
new
बैंक
development bank
ग्लोबल साउथ के
is
देशों के
playing
विकास में
an important role
महत्वपूर्ण
in
भूमिका
the
निभा रहा है।
development of the countries of the global south.
कंटिजेंसी रिजर्व
Through
अरेंजमेंट्स के
its
माध्यम से
contingency reserve
हमने
arrangement,
फाइनेंशियल
we
सेफ्टी
have
नेट का
created a
निर्माण किया।
financial safety net
ब्रिक्स सैटेलाइट
through initiatives such as
Constellation,
the BRICS satellite constellation,
R&D
the
सेंटर,
vaccine R&D center,
फार्मा उत्पादों को
mutual
पारंपरिक मान्यता
recognition of pharma
जैसी
products.
पहलों से हम
We are bringing
ब्रिक्स देशों
about
के आम नागरिकों के जीवन में
positive
सकारात्मक
changes
बदलाव
in
ला
the
रहे हैं।
lives of ordinary citizens in
Youth
BRICS
Summit,
countries.
ब्रिक्स गेम्स,
Through initiatives such as the
थिंक
Youth
टैंक
Summit,
काउंसिल
BRICS Games,
जैसे
the
इनिशिएटिव
Think
से हम
Tanks Council,
सभी देशों के
we
बीच
are strengthening
people ties
people
मजबूत
to
कर
people
रहे हैं।
ties between all countries.
ब्रिक्स एजेंडा को नई दिशा देने के
In
लिए
order to give
भारत ने
the BRICS agenda new
रेलवे रिसर्च
direction,
नेटवर्क,
India has given some
MSME के बीच
suggestions
करीबी सहयोग,
such as the Railway Research
ऑनलाइन
Network,
ब्रिक्स डेटाबेस,
the
स्टार्टअप फोरम
online
जैसे
BRICS
कुछ
database,
सुझाव रखे।
close cooperation between MSMEs
मुझे
and a
खुशी है
startup forum.
इन
I am
विषयों पर
pleased that
उल्लेखनीय प्रगति हुई।
significant progress has been made in all these
Excellencies,
areas. Excellencies,
हमारे करीबी
in
सहयोग को
order
और
to
व्यापक बनाने
further
के लिए
expand our
मैं
close
कुछ सुझाव
cooperation, I
आपके
would like
सामने
to place
रखना
before
चाहूंगा।
you a few suggestions.
पहला है
The first is
स्पेस के क्षेत्र में सहयोग।
cooperation in the area of space.
ब्रिक्स सैटेलाइट
We
कॉन्स्टेलेशन
have already
पर पहले
been
से काम कर रहे
working
हैं।
on a BRICS
एक
satellite
कदम आगे बढ़ाते
constellation.
हुए
Taking a step
हम ब्रिक्स
forward,
स्पेस
we
एक्सप्लोरेशन
can think about
कंसोर्टियम बनाने पर
creating a BRICS space
विचार कर
exploration
सकते हैं।
consortium.
इसके अंतर्गत
Under this,
हम स्पेस रिसर्च,
we can work on
वेदर
areas
मॉनिटरिंग
such as space
जैसे
research
क्षेत्रों में
and weather
ग्लोबल गुड
monitoring
के लिए
for
काम कर
global
सकते
good.
हैं। मेरा दूसरा सुझाव
My
है
second suggestion
शिक्षा,
is
स्किल
cooperation
डेवलपमेंट
in the areas
और
of
टेक्नोलॉजी में
education,
सहयोग।
skill development and
BRICS को
technology.
फ्यूचर
In
रेडी
order
ऑर्गेनाइजेशन
to
बनाने
make
के लिए
BRICS a
हमें
future
अपनी
ready
सोसाइटी को
organization,
फ्यूचर
we
रेडी
must
बनाना
make
होगा।
our societies future ready.
इसमें टेक्नोलॉजी की अहम
Technology
भूमिका रहेगी।
can play an important role
भारत में हमने
in this regard
दूर सुदूर तथा ग्रामीण
in
क्षेत्रों के
order to
बच्चों
provide access
और उन
to
तक शिक्षा पहुंचाने के
education
लिए
for children
दीक्षा
living in remote and
digital
rural
infrastructure
areas
for
in
knowledge
India.
sharing platform
We have
बनाया
created
है।
the Diksha
साथ
platform,
ही
that is
स्कूल
digital
के विद्यार्थियों के
infrastructure
बीच
for
innovation
knowledge
को बढ़ावा
sharing.
देने के लिए
At the same time,
हमने देश
in
भर में
order to promote
10,000
innovation
अटल
among
tinkering
school
labs
children,
बनाए।
we have created 10,000
भाषा
Atal
संबंधी
tinkering
बाधाओं को
labs
हटाने के
across
लिए
the country
भारत
in
में
order to remove
AI
language
based
barriers.
language
An
platform
AI-based language
भाषिणी का
platform,
इस्तेमाल किया
Bhashini,
जा रहा है।
is being used.
वैक्सीनेशन के लिए
The
कोविन
CoWIN
प्लेटफॉर्म
platform
बनाया गया है।
has been made to manage
डिजिटल
vaccinations
पब्लिक इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर
through our digital public
यानी इंडिया स्टैक
infrastructure,
के माध्यम
that
से
is the India
पब्लिक
stack.
सर्विस डिलीवरी को
Public service delivery
रिवॉल्यूशनराइज
is
किया जा
being
रहा है।
revolutionized.
विविधता भारत की एक
Diversity
बहुत बड़ी ताकत
is
है।
one of India's
भारत
greatest
में किसी
strengths.
समस्या का हल
The solution
इस विविधता की
to
कसौटी
any
से
problem
निकल कर
found
आता
in
है।
India has withstood the
इसलिए
test of this
ये solutions
diversity, and
विश्व
therefore
के किसी भी
these
कोने में
solutions
आसानी से
can
लागू हो
easily
सकते
be
हैं।
implemented
इस
in
संदर्भ
any
में
part of the world.
भारत में
In
विकसित
this regard,
इन सभी
we
प्लेटफॉर्म्स
will
को
be pleased to share with
ब्रिक्स पार्टनर्स के
BRICS
साथ
partners
साझा करने
all
में
these
हमें
platforms
खुशी होगी।
developed in India.
मेरा दूसरा सुझाव है
My third
कि
suggestion
एक दूसरे की
is
ताकतों की
that in
पहचान
order
करने के
to
लिए
identify each
हम
other's
मिलकर
strengths,
स्किल
we can carry out
मैपिंग पर
together
कर सकते
a
हैं।
skills mapping
इसके माध्यम से
exercise.
हम
Through
विकास
this,
यात्रा में
we can
एक दूसरे
complement
के
each other in
पूरक
the
बन सकते हैं।
development journey.
मेरा चौथा
My
सुझाव है
fourth suggestion
बिग कैट्स के संबंध में।
relates to big cats.
ब्रिक्स के पांचों देशों
In
में
all 5 BRICS
बड़ी
countries,
संख्या में
various
विभिन्न
species
प्रजातियों के
of
बिग
big
कैट्स
cats
पाए जाते
can
हैं।
be found in large numbers.
इंटरनेशनल बिग
Under
कैट
the
अलायंस के अंतर्गत
International Big Cat
हम इनके
Alliance,
संरक्षण के लिए
we can make
साझा प्रयास
joint
कर
efforts
सकते हैं।
for their protection.
मेरा पांचवा सुझाव
My
है
fifth suggestion
ट्रेडिशनल मेडिसिन को
relates
लेकर
to traditional
हम
medicine.
सभी देशों में
All our countries
ट्रेडिशनल मेडिसिन
have
का इकोसिस्टम है।
traditional medicine
क्या हम
ecosystems.
मिलकर
Can we together
ट्रेडिशनल मेडिसिन की
create
रिपोजिटरी
a repository
सकते हैं।
of traditional medicine?
एक्सेलेंसी
Excellencies,
दक्षिण अफ्रीका की अध्यक्षता में
under South Africa's
ग्लोबल साउथ
presidency,
के देशों को ब्रिक्स में
countries of the
एक
global south
महत्व विशेष
have been given
दिया गया है।
special importance
हम
in
इसका हृदय
BRICS.
से स्वागत करते
We heartily welcome this.
हैं। यह वर्तमान समय की
This
मात्रा
is not just
अपेक्षा ही नहीं
an expectation
जरूरत
of
भी
the
है।
present times, but a
भारत ने
necessity as well.
अपनी G20
Under its
अध्यक्षता में
G20
इस
presidency,
विषय को
India has
सर्वोच्च
given
प्राथमिकता
this
दी है।
subject the highest
One
priority. Based
वन फैमिली
on our
वन
core
फ्यूचर
value,
इस
one
मूल
earth,
मंत्र पर हम
one family,
सभी
one
देशों के साथ
future,
मिलकर
we are making
बढ़ने का
efforts to move
प्रयास
forward
कर रहे हैं।
together with all countries.
इस वर्ष जनवरी में आयोजित
In the Voice
Voice
of
of
Global
South
South
में
Summit organized in
125
January
देशों ने
earlier
भाग
this
लिया
year,
और अपनी चिंताओं
125
और
countries
प्राथमिकताओं को
participated
साझा किया।
and shared their
हमने
concerns
अफ्रीकन यूनियन
and
को
priorities.
G20 की स्थायी
We have
सदस्यता देने
also
का प्रस्ताव भी
proposed permanent
रखा।
membership for the African
मुझे
Union
विश्वास है
in the
कि
G20.
सभी ब्रिक्स पार्टनर्स
I am confident
G20 में भी
that all
साथ है
BRIC partners
सभी
are also
हमारे
together
प्रस्ताव का
in the G20
समर्थन
and
करेंगे।
that all will
इन सभी
support
प्रयासों
our
को ब्रिक्स में
proposal,
भी विशेष स्थान दिए जाने
giving
से
a special
ग्लोबल
place
साउथ के देशों
to
को
all these efforts within
आत्मबल
BRICS
और
as well,
बढ़ेगा।
will further boost the
Excellency,
morale of countries of
भारत
the global south.
ब्रिक्स की सदस्यता
Excellencies,
में
India
विस्तार का
fully supports
पूरा समर्थन
the
करता है
expansion of
और
BRICS
इसमें
membership,
कंसेंसस के साथ
and we
आगे बढ़ने
welcome
का
moving
स्वागत
forward
करता है।
on this based on
2016
consensus.
में
In
भारत की अध्यक्षता
2016,
के दौरान
during India's
हमने BRICS को
presidency, we
building
had defined
responsive,
BRICS as a group
इंक्लूसिव
building
एंड
responsive
कलेक्टिव सॉल्यूशन से
inclusive
परिभाषित किया
and
था।
collective solutions.
7 साल बाद
7 years
हम कह
later,
सकते हैं
we can
कि
say
ब्रिक्स विल बी
that BRICS will be
breaking
breaking
barriers,
barriers,
revitalizing economy,
revitalizing economies,
inspiring innovation,
inspiring innovation,
creating opportunities
creating
and
opportunities,
shaping
and
the future.
shaping the future.
हम सभी ब्रिक्स
Together
पार्टनर के साथ
with
मिलकर
all BRICS
इस नई
partners,
परिभाषा को
we will
सार्थक
continue
करने में
to
सक्रिय
contribute
योगदान
actively
देखते रहेंगे।
to make this
बहुत
new
बहुत धन्यवाद।
definition meaningful. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Prime Minister Modi, for your very insightful remarks. Would like to particularly thank you, South Africa, for reminding us of the journey that Mahatma Gandhi started here in South Africa and what he imparted to our forebears in South Africa in the modes of struggle. He was one who was strong on resistance. He taught us passive resistance, which he perfected, and we escalated to various acts of boycotts against the apartheid system. And through that, we were able to encourage citizen activism and organizations that were involved in our struggle, like the African National Congress and others, mobilized our people to fight against apartheid and finally to defeat it. So Mahatma Gandhi played a very important role in the history of South Africa. Thank you for reminding us. Would like to congratulate India, particularly as you speak about the need for cooperation in space. In a few hours, India's spacecraft Chandrayaan-3 will be landing on the moon. We congratulate you. This, for us as the BRICS family, is a momentous occasion, and we rejoice with you. We join you in the joy of this great achievement. But we also thank you for making the proposal that there should perhaps be a BRICS space cooperation system, which can be looked at. It's a very forward-looking proposal. And your proposals on the development of skills is something that we appreciate and has great support amongst all of us. And thank you very much for also mentioning the issue about big cats. We were pleased as South Africa to donate cheetahs to India, and you informed me that the cheetahs arrived well and they are alive in India. And I told you that we are willing and prepared to donate even more, because you are a country that takes care of big cats. So we thank you for that. So should you need more cheetahs, you've come to the home of cheetahs. On the issue of traditional medicines repository, we have a very big community of people who are involved in traditional medicine here in South Africa. So we're willing to cooperate, and I'm sure the same obtains with all other members of BRICS. And this you will find great support for amongst all of us to create a traditional medicines repository. So that would be good to heal all the ailments. We should not just continue being dependent on Western medicines. We should be also dependent on our own traditional medicines. We appreciate your focus on the Global South, and also for having had this meeting of 125 countries participating. The Global South should now continue to be our area of focus, and we appreciate that. We want to wish you well as you continue to prepare to host the G20 summit. at which you have invited us, and we will surely participate. And we are heartened to hear that India supports the expansion of BRICS. This is a matter that we are discussing, and hopefully we will find a clear solution to this matter as we discuss it amongst ourselves as BRICS leaders. So we thank you very much. My honor now to call on His Excellency President Xi Jinping to take the floor and address us. President Xi Jinping.
Your Excellency, President Cyril Ramaphosa, Your Excellency, President Lula Da Silva, Your Excellency, President Vladimir Putin, Your Excellency, Prime Minister Narendra Modi. We gather at a time when the world is undergoing major shifts, division, and regrouping. It has entered a new period of turbulence and transformation. We, the BRICS countries, should always bear in mind our founding purpose of strengthening ourselves through unity, act on a strong sense of responsibility, enhance cooperation across the board, and promote high-quality development so as to bring to the world more certainty, stability, and positive energy. We should deepen business and financial cooperation to boost economic growth. Development is an inalienable right of all countries. It is not a privilege reserved for a few. The world economic recovery remains shaky, with less than 3% of growth for the year, as estimated by some international institutions. Challenges for developing countries are even more formidable, hampering their efforts to realize the sustainable development goals. We BRICS countries should be fellow companions on the journey of development and revitalization, and oppose decoupling and supply chain disruption, as well as economic coercion. We should focus on practical cooperation, particularly in such fields as digital economy, green development, and supply chain, and bolster economic, trade, and financial exchanges. China will set up a China BRICS Science and Innovation Incubation Park for the new era to support the deployment of innovation results. Under the BRICS Remote Sensing Satellite Constellation Mechanism, we will explore the establishment of a BRICS Global Remote Sensing Satellite Data and Application Cooperation Platform to provide data support for agriculture, ecological conservation, and disaster reduction in various countries. China will also work with all parties to jointly establish a BRICS framework on industrial cooperation for sustainable development as a platform of industrial coordination and project cooperation in implementing the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. We should expand political and security cooperation to uphold peace and tranquility. The Cold War mentality is still haunting our world, and the geopolitical situation is getting tense. BRICS countries should keep to the direction of peaceful development and consolidate the BRICS strategic
要用
partnership.
好金砖国家
We need to make
外
good
长
use
会晤
of the BRICS foreign ministers
安
meeting,
全事务高级代表会议
the
等
meeting
机
of
制，
high representatives on national security,
在
and
涉及
other
彼此核心
mechanisms.
利益的问题上
Support
相
each
互
other
支持，
on issues concerning our
就
respective
重大
core
国际和地区
interests
问题加强协调，
and enhance coordination on major international and
要
regional
积极
issues.
斡旋热点问题，
We need to tender good
推动
offices
政
on
治解
hotspot
决，
issues, pushing for
给
political
热点
settlement
问题
and lowering
降
the
温
temperature.
去火。人工智能是人类发展新领域，
Artificial intelligence
既
is
能
a
带
new
来巨
frontier
大发
of
展红
development.
利，也
It may
蕴含着
generate enormous
风险
development
挑战。
dividends, but also harbors
5国已
risks
经
and
同意
challenges.
尽快启动人
Our
工
5
智能
countries have
研
agreed
究组
to
工
launch
作，
the AI study group of BRICS
要充分
Institute
发
of
挥研究
Future
组作
Networks
用，
at an early date.
进一步拓展
We need to
人工
enable
智
the
能
study
合
group
作，
to play its
加
full
强信
role,
息交流
further
和
expand
技术合
cooperation on
作，
AI, and step up
共
information
同做好
exchange
风
and
险
technological
防范，
cooperation. We
推
need to
动建
jointly
立普
fend
遍
off
参与
risks
的
and
国际
develop
机制，
AI governance frameworks and
形成
standards
具有
with
广
broad-based
泛共识
consensus.
的人工智能治理框架和标准规范，
So as to
不断提升人工
make
智能技
AI
术的
technologies
安全性、
more
可
secure,
靠性、可
reliable,
控性、公平
controllable,
性。
and equitable.
我们要加强人文交流，促
We
进
should
文明
increase
互鉴，
people-to-people exchanges and
文
promote
明多彩多
mutual
姿，
learning between civilizations.
发展道路多
There are
元
many
多样，
civilizations and development
这
paths
是
in
世
the
界
world,
应有的样子
and。this is how the world should be.
人类历史不会终结
Human
于一
history
种文
will not
明、
end with
一种
a
制度。
particular civilization or system.
金砖国家要弘扬海纳百川的精
BRICS
神，
countries need to champion the
倡
spirit
导不
of
同和平共
inclusiveness
处、文
and
明和平
advocate
共处、
peaceful coexistence and
和和
harmony
共生，
between civilizations.
要尊重各国自主选择的
We should
现代化
respect
道路，
all modernization
反
paths
对
that each
意识
country
形态对立、
chooses on its own,
制度对
and
抗、
oppose ideological rivalry,
文明冲突。
systemic confrontation, and clash of civilizations.
要用好金砖国家治国理政研讨
We
会、
need to make good use of such
人文
mechanisms
交流论
as
坛、
the BRICS Seminar on
女
Governance,
性创新
the
大
BRICS
赛等
Forum
机
on
制，
people-to-people and culture exchanges,
深化人文
and the
交流，
Women Innovation
增进
Contest to
民
deepen
心相通。
people-to-people exchanges and strengthen the bond between our
中方
peoples.
提议，
China would like
金
to
砖国家
propose
拓展教
that
育领
BRICS
域合
countries
作，
expand cooperation on
发挥
education,
好职业教育联
enhance the
盟作
role
用，
of the BRICS Alliance for
探索
vocational
建立
education,
数字教育合作
explore
机
and
制，
set up a cooperation
打
mechanism
造
on
全方
digital
位
education,
教育合作格局，
and foster a paradigm of all-round cooperation
同
on
时加
education.
强传统文化交
In
流，
addition, we also need to
促
strengthen
进优秀
exchanges
传
on
统文
traditional
化
cultures,
传承和
and
创新。
promote the renewal of the fine traditional cultures.
我们要坚持公平正义，
We should
完
uphold
善全
fairness
球治
and
理，
justice and improve global
加
governance.
强全球治理是国际社会共享发展机遇，
Strengthening global
应
governance
对
is the
全
right
球性
choice
挑战的
if the international
正确
community
选
intends
择
to share development opportunities and tackle
国际
global
规则
challenges.
要依据联合国
The
宪章
international
宗旨和
rules
原则，
must be written and
由大
upheld
家共
jointly
同书写、
by all countries,
共同维护，
based on the purposes and principles
不
of
能
the
谁的胳
UN
膊粗、
Charter,
嗓门大，
rather than
谁就说了算，
dictated by those with the strongest muscles
更不
or the
能
loudest
拉帮
voice,
结派，把自己
ganging
的
up
家法
to
班
form
规
exclusive
包
groups
装成
and
国际
packaging
规
their
则。
own rules as international norms are even
金
more
砖国家要
unacceptable.
践行真正的多边主义，
BRICS countries should
坚持
practice
团
true
结，
multilateralism,
反对分裂，维护以
stick
联
to
合国为核
solidarity,
心的
and oppose
国际
division,
体系，
uphold
支
the
持并加强
UN-centered
以世贸
international
组织为核
system,
心的多边
support
贸易
and
体制，
strengthen the WTO-centered
反对
multilateral
小
trading
圈子
system,
小集团
and，reject the attempt to create small circles
要充分
or
发挥
exclusive blocks.
新开发银行的作
We
用，
need to fully leverage the role
推动
of
国
the
际
new
金融货
development
币
bank,
体系改革，
push forward reform
提
of
升
the
发展中国
international
家的代
financial
表性
and monetary
和发
systems,
言权。
and increase the representation and voice of developing
我高兴
countries.
地看到，
I am
发
glad to
展中
see
国家参与
the
金砖
growing
合作的
enthusiasm of
热情
developing
高涨，
countries about
很多发展中国家
about
申请加入
participating in BRICS
金砖
cooperation,
合作机制。
and quite a number of them have applied
我
to
们要
join the
用
BRICS
好
cooperation mechanism.
金砖加合作，
We need to make good use
加
of
速
the BRICS
扩
plus
员进
cooperation
程，
format and
让
accelerate
更多
the
国家
BRICS
加
expansion
入
process
到
to
金
bring
砖大
more
家庭，
countries into the BRICS
集
family,
众志，
so as to
汇群力，
pool our strength, pool
推
our
动
wisdom,
全球治理朝着
to
更
make
加
global
公正合理
governance
的
more
方向
just
发展。
and equitable.
各位同事，
Colleagues,
中国古人
as
说
an ancient Chinese saying：“ goes,
谋度于义者必
designs for
得，
justice prevail,
事因于民者
and acts
必
for the
成。
benefit of the people succeed. ”
金砖事业秉持国
The
际道
cause
义，
of BRICS champions
造福
international
我国人
justice
民，
and benefits the
必
peoples
将
of our five
行稳
countries.
致远，
It will grow
为
steady and
促进
strong
世界和平和发展
and make
做出
greater
更
contributions
大的
to
贡献
world。 peace and development.
我说完了，谢谢大家。
Thank you.
Thank you, President Xi Jinping, for those insightful words. Yes, indeed, the world has entered a new period of turbulence, and you call upon BRICS to play an important role, notwithstanding this turbulence that the world is going through, and that the BRICS family should remain united, but more importantly, should be ready to play a key role in helping to stabilize the world. And you mentioned a very important point about development, that it is not a privilege of a few. Development should be spread around so that all can benefit. And you mentioned a number of areas in which there should be development in science, technological advancement, in innovation. And we thank you also for the offer to set up a BRICS remote data center that will help to advance the technological and innovative capability of BRICS countries, as well as developing a framework for implementing the SDGs. We thank you for that. And much as you say, the Cold War mentality continues to haunt the world, that the BRICS countries should stand on the side of peace. I think we support that, and we support the message you put forward that we should support each other on our core interests, the areas that each one of us in BRICS focus on. And artificial intelligence is a new frontier that we need to focus on, but we should also have governance of artificial intelligence, and it should be reliable and secure. And another important aspect is the people-to-people contact that we should underpin our unity in the BRICS around, and that there should be respect for the modernization paths that countries have opted for. So we thank you for that. And there should not be ideological competition. This is the calling card for BRICS countries. Empowerment of women, and also must promote traditional cultures. That too, we should say we appreciate. And yes, President Xi, you are in full support of the expansion of BRICS, as has been articulated by all BRICS members. that we stand at the cusp of expanding the BRICS family, because it is through this expansion that we will be able to have a much stronger BRICS in these turbulent times that we live in. So we await the decision that will be taken by the BRICS leaders in this regard in due course as we go on with our summit. We've now reached a stage where we now want to give the media an opportunity, as they often ask for, that once they've done quite a bit of work, they want to go and rest. So we want to give the media an opportunity to go and rest. I don't know what they do when they go to rest, whether they have a siesta or whether they go and have tea, but we want to give them that opportunity. But they can be rest assured we will continue with our work because we are committed to doing so. We are mindful of their wishes and their interests, so we will pause for a while and give them an opportunity to leave us, to go and rest, and then we will continue with our meeting. So we pause just for a while to allow the media to go and do what they do best when they have an opportunity to be resting. So media people, thank you very much for being here. You may take your leave.